Hey Sam, hey Ben, can you hear me? Sam, you're muted. Bill, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Great. I can hear you too.
All right. Well, I may mute it again. I got to finish up a couple of items
Yeah,
here.
sure, sure. I just wanted to do a quick test. Bill, I,
Thank
I
you for
still can't
this.
hear you. Bill, I
Can you
still
hear
can't.
me?
Just so you guys know, we are recording now, so I'm going to not say anything else until the meeting starts. I think we could start anytime. You're ready, Bill.
All right, we're ready?
Yes, yes, sir.
All right, good evening. My name is Bill Eubanks. Aaron Stevens couldn't be with us tonight, so I'll be chairing the meeting. So welcome to the February 2nd, 2026 meeting of the City of Charleston's Design Review Board. The members of the board are Ben Whitener, Lucas Boyd, Ashley Jackrell, Stephanie Tillerson, Adriana Carson, and Sam Furr. The members of the city staff are David Meeks and Brad Thomas, DRB staff, and Patrick Carlson, city clerk. No board members are recused from any of the agenda items, and no agenda items have been deferred by the applicant. We had no public letters submitted, and no one from the public has signed up to speak. The order of the meeting this afternoon will be as follows. First, there will be an introduction of the project and context overview by staff. Then there will be a project presentation by the applicant, limited to 10 minutes unless they request additional time. All presenters are to clearly state their name for the record. Persons affiliated with the project, designers, owners, developers, consultants, etc., should also speak at that time. That will be followed by board questions of the applicant. That is normally followed by public comments, but since we had no one sign up to speak, we will move on to city staff recommendations. After that, the applicant will have a chance to respond, make any clarifications to staff comments if they want to. They can take 5 minutes for that. After that, there's a board discussion. The applicant may clarify inaccurate information when recognized by the chair, but otherwise may only speak if asked a question by the board. That would be followed by a board motion and a second, further discussion, and a vote. And with that, David, we can go to the first agenda item.
Thank you, Bill. I have just a few context slides. We have seen this project before. You can see the red thumbtack. It's out in Canehoy area, just off of Clements Ferry Road. This is a new development. Closer view. The area was a little outdated. This has been worked on, developed a little further than what you see here. This is across the street looking across Clements Ferry to where the entrance to this development will be. And with that, I would turn it over to Cairo.
Thank you, David, for the introduction. Can you all hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Great. So this is a request for preliminary approval for buildings 1, 2, and 3 for this commercial site.
Can I interrupt you for just a second? Or do you need more than 10 minutes?
No, I'll try to keep it within 10 minutes.
All right, thank you.
And let me know when to, I'm sorry, just let me know when to advance the slides, please.
Yes, I'll do that. So those 3 buildings, we're requesting preliminary approval. The 4th building that you see here in the background received preliminary approval in December last year. We had also addressed landscape and site comments from the conceptual review, which we have all added here as our homework on this sheet. So for these buildings 1, 2, and 3, we basically did the same. We included the same changes as we did for building 4. From a landscape point of view, we have also addressed comments that we received in December and have added the common names to the plant list, and we selected an alternative for the sweet gum trees and used maples for this. So we can proceed to the next slide as I go through each individual building. Buildings 1, 2, and 3 are here to the south facing Clements Ferry Road. Next slide, please. Next slide to the roof plan. Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Nothing really has changed here except for building 3. We had to change the footprint slightly and elongate the building to satisfy the owner's needs. But we still have a nice courtyard between building 2 and 3 that I can show later on the landscape plan. Next slide, please. Here are the streetscape elevations. Again, the face towards Clements Ferry Road has not much changed, but I like to dive into each individual buildings to show the before and after elevations. Next slide, please. We had already presented those materials for building 4 at the last preliminary submittal. Nothing has changed here. We only added the selection for our wall sconces and for the path lighting along the sidewalks. The larger wall sconce we'll put on the gabled roof and the main entrances. And we have a more understated light for secondary entrances and egress doors. Next slide, please. So here we'll start with building 1. That's the first building you see as you enter from Clements Ferry Road. On the right side was the previous submittal at the conceptual level. On the left side, the new submittal. So we have, just like we did for building 4, we changed the look of the infill porch, used a darker color to contrast that element towards the gable. And then we had to include one change where we replaced the glazing, the storefront glazing that extended up to the roof. We had to lower the glazing here just because we had to fit an ambulatory surgery center into the space. The lobby shrank, and so it did not make sense to have the glazing all the way up to the roof. So we replaced it with vertical wood look siding, just as we did for building 4. Next slide. This is just the floor plan and the roof plan. Next slide, please. At the bottom, you'll see the conceptual elevations. At the top, you'll see the newly proposed elevations. Except for the color change, another change that we incorporated was the increased brick parapet. We increased that by 8 inches. Those were the areas that are predominantly hiding the rooftop equipment. In this instance, for building 1, we have to add a roof screen as well, just because this is an ambulatory surgery center and the rooftop equipment is a little bit larger. Another change you see here at this first building elevation is that we had to reduce the glazing slightly, and on the right part, on the brick part, because of surgery bays behind this glazing. So we using the same horizontal fiber cement siding that's recessed for the first 6 feet. And then we're still providing some clear story windows. That's an approach we already did for building 4, and that was accepted at the last go around. Next slide. For those elevations facing Clements Ferry Road, they have not changed much, as you can see. So we can move on to building 2, please. These are the building sections. Next slide. This is building 2. At the top, you see a comparison between preliminary and conceptual level. Here we also had to, unfortunately, reduce the storefront glazing that previously went up to the roof up to 17 feet. And we again introduced the vertical wood look siding here at the main entrance. But this way, all of the main entrances of all 4 buildings are now pretty much the same. Next slide. Next slide, I'll go move on to the elevations. Again, not much change except for the slightly higher brick parapets that we introduced. In order to avoid an awkward situation where the gable meets the higher brick wall, we introduced a small hyphen, and you'll see that throughout each building, just so that the eave of the gable can exist freely without interacting with the brick. Next slide, please. Here the only change is that one of the gables that faces the courtyard between building 2 and 3, we didn't want that gable to look like a main entrance, since it's really just a gable and it houses a break room. So we reduced the siding, the wood look siding slightly to make this look yeah, less important. Next slide. These are the building sections again. Next slide. Now we should go to building 3. The last building here, again, this is the change that we introduced to the porch infill element. Next slide. Next slide. As we go, if you could proceed to the elevations, please. So here, as I said, the owner requested a slight change to the footprint, so we had to elongate the building a little bit, but we still have the same elements, the gable elements, the higher brick parapets, and the porch infill. So just slight changes, but from Clements Ferry Road itself, you won't really see a big difference. Next slide. Next slide. Now we're showing wall sections that basically apply to each of the 3 buildings. Here, the section through the rake of the gabled roof and the main entrance. Next slide. Just the eave detail, the brick detail with the recessed wood siding, and then our infill porch element with a slightly lower roof. And the next slide shows the porch element that we have in building 1. Next slide. Next slide. I think now we can just move on to the landscape drawings. Again, here we included the common names for the plant schedule, and the main change was the reselection of the sweet gum species to a maple species. And with that, I'll have the board ask any questions if anything is unclear. We have our civil engineer Jessica Myers on the line as well, and Carter Ricks from Remark can answer any landscape questions.
Great, thank you, Kara. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant?
I have a quick one. We talked about in the preliminary review for the other building, the change of plane with a material change. And I know that you had to go to the wood-like siding instead of the storefront at the entrances. And I'm wondering if there's that similar plane change, or is it coplanar with the adjacent siding?
So when we are applying, there will be a change in plane. The wood siding will be recessed slightly, and it will basically be the same recess as you can see with the horizontal dark gray siding. In order to achieve that, we have to fur out the board and batten, and that way we can manage that recess.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll make sure that that is also incorporated in the mock-up that we'll prepare.
Hero, I just had a couple of simple questions. You probably know the answer quickly. The mechanical rooftop units that you mentioned, you had a screen, I believe it's building 1.
Yes.
I take it you guys looked at the different areas around the site, just making sure that large unit is screened wherever you can see it. It looked like on the southern side, or looking south, that it didn't have a mechanical screen around it. I take it the parapet is high enough at that point that you can't see it.
Yes, because the street is relatively narrow there. You could potentially see it when you're at the northwestern part of the parking lot. So we can look at turning that around and screening it from all 3 sides. But directly opposite the street, you wouldn't see it.
Okay. And all I saw for the generator was a dashed in on one of the elevations, I believe, and then on the L204 it shows the generator. Was there a screen planned anywhere between building 1 and 2 for that generator? Looked pretty large.
So we were planning to just screen it with landscaping towards Clements Ferry Road, but you're asking for screening towards the parking lot?
Yeah, I just didn't see any screening around that slab.
Yeah. right now we don't have a physical screen plan for it, but we can certainly look at that.
That's all. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we can move on to staff.
Thank you, Bill. Some staff observations first. This project continues to progress nicely. The building's design direction is good, as is the way the buildings are set back from Clements Ferry Road with the pond between the buildings and the road. The landscape plan is also looking strong. One staff comment from the September 2nd meeting was to add some ornamental grasses on the pond side, patio between buildings 3 and 4. The applicants have added saw palmettos and viburnums, which staff is happy with. Staff comment number 1, a staff comment that was in the motion from 9 to 25 meeting was to add some pervious pavers somewhere on the site plan, which has not been done yet. We still would recommend that. Staff comment number 2, please remove the nature trail from the legend of the site plan since it's been removed from the project. And staff comment number 3, please review the standard staff comments found on the DRB webpage to review all comments that would apply to your project. For example, on sheet 901, there's a detail for U-channel post for all traffic signs. And the standard staff comment is that all traffic sign posts should be decorative. And only the stop sign in the right of way must remain the standard U-channel breakaway post. But we do recommend a preliminary approval of buildings 2, 3, and 4, plus the site with final review by staff.
Right. Cairo, do you want to respond to any of those comments?
I'd like to have Carter maybe address the pervious pavers, because I was under the impression that we had added those. If Carter Ricks is, if he could be.
Yep, I'm here.
And then-
Yeah, so we had we added, I'm not sure what sheet it'll be on y'all on the presentation, but Bell 300 has the Teco Block terrazzo pedestrian paver as a permanently set paver. And
Okay,
that-
great. Yeah, sorry I missed that. So thank you
Yeah,
for
yeah.
adding that.
No worries. So yeah, just wanted to mention that.
Thank you.
I think other than that, we don't have any comments. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Board discussion.
I think, yeah, I agree with staff. I think the project has progressed nicely. Even at a conceptual level, it utilizes a really simple architectural toolbox, and just it uses it really inventively to kind of create hierarchy and nuance. So the detailing and the progression of it has just reinforced that. So I'd be in favor of preliminary approval.
Agreed. I think it's an appropriate complex of buildings for that area. It's nicely detailed. I do think that the glass storefront would have been a nice addition, but you had a great response why it's not there. But definitely it's come along. It looks wonderful. So I'll make a preliminary or a motion for preliminary approval with staff comments 2 and 3. Correct, David?
We have a second?
One has already been done, right?
Correct.
I'll
So
second.
Was there a second?
I second it.
Okay, so we have a motion by Ben for preliminary approval with staff comments 2 and 3. Adriana second. Any other discussion before we vote? All right. Lucas,
Yes, in favor.
Ashley,
Yes.
Stephanie. Is Stephanie with us?
Sorry, you had to unmute me. Yes, in favor.
Okay, there we go. And I'm in favor. So motion passes.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, you too. Well,
All
I
right.
think we are moving on with, as planned with the second agenda items.
Okay,
given the
great.
time.
All right, agenda item number 2, 1647 King Street Extension.
Let's see, I have just a few context slides to show everybody where this is. If you see the red thumbtack in the Upper Peninsula, a little closer view. This is where the old Tradesman Brewery was, and it's across 26 from the future Magnolia development. Closer view. This is looking into the site towards I-26. Again, looking into the site. This is the residences across the street, the site's on the right. Site's on the right. And with that, I will turn it over to the applicant.
Great. Do you need more than 10 minutes?
Lassie, are you muted? Let's see. Lassie or Lee?
Okay, gotcha. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes. Lassie, do you need more than 10 minutes?
Bill, if that's okay with you guys, we'll try to fit it in 10, but we'd like to ask for extension just in case. I think
Got it.
I think Stephen Whiteside and Kaylee Roberts is going to kick us off with civil and landscape.
And let me know when you'd like me to advance the slides.
Hey, this is Kaylee. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, perfect. All right, so if you'll go to probably just slide, I think it's slide 8. I'll just kick it off real quick with our previous site plan. You guys have seen this before in the previous conceptual DRB. Kind of site layout wasn't exactly what we wanted, and a ton of building changes, so I'll keep it quick on the site side and toss it over to Lossie after that. Some of the comments we did receive were just kind of how the building was placed against the residential. So we have switched that around a little bit and made it more of a nicer area where beside Ashpee where the residents will be. There's now, and Lossie will go into more detail, like a plaza area that we've really just trying to give back to the residents in that aspect and be more inviting than just a big, large building. So we've done that, and then we've kind of moved the building in a better way so that the parking is in the back, which is one of the suggestions from our previous conceptual DRB as well. It'll get kind of hidden by the I-26 because it's more in the back, and then putting that all together in the same area with the loading area and keeping that all kind of a little bit more hidden and more appetizing to the residents right there. We have reduced it down to one entrance, and that is per DOT in that location, just to connect directly across the street from that surrounding road, and then entrance there, and then coordinating with the fire department, we have put the gravel access road on the backhand side, also kind of hiding that. That correlates with the current CWS gravel access road, so kind of just upgrading that and extending it to meet fire requirements. And then one of the only other things, if you want to go to the next slide, was with our LA comments. Kind of some of the comments we received is not having quite enough trees on the I-26 side. So we've added everything along the parking side, getting a full, we'll call it a landscape area, an actual buffer along that pavement, and just allowing some more trees there. And then there will be some landscaping and making it look nice, bushes and stuff in that plaza area, which Lassie will talk about. I think that's mostly it from the site side.
All right, thank you, Kaylee. David or Bill, if we can go to slide 29. And sorry, I'm going to jump around a little bit here with the slides.
That's fine.
But guys, as LFK Architects is coming on as being the designer, architectural designer for the project, obviously we're sort of starting over. I know you guys have seen some of the earlier conceptual presentations, and just for our understanding and kind of digesting and getting up to speed, we went back through the recent that conceptual presentation back in September. And just the highlights that we wanted to take away from that was staff and board comments. And 4 primary comments came out of that we understood. And the first one was that the project needed architectural direction or vision. The second one was to be careful of the massing of the building adjacent to the Silver Hill residential community. The third one was consider maybe parking and loading to be on the back of the building, perhaps next to I-26. And then finally, using landscape and canopy trees to try to scale down the massing of the building. So this is part of us getting up to speed on our end. And then if we can switch over to page 13, we'll have to back up a little bit. Just wanted to hit a little bit on our site analysis and our larger sort of look at the site context. So as you can see, our site is here on the neck area of the peninsula, and obviously this neck area has been this transportation spine that served the peninsula for years and years. And our site really has been defined by rails and the automobile, I-26 coming in and around 1960, kind of squeezing that side of the site. And then we got King Street Extension and all the railways that kind of happen in this area. If we can go to the next slide. Yeah. So you can see our site on the left there, and just kind of reacting and responding to some of the industrial nature of the site. So on the upper part of the image, you've got Chevron and you've got Kinder Morgan and some of these larger bulk shipping and receiving kind of uses up there. As you work our way down the page, you can see the train, which happens right along the King Street extension. And that train track seems to sort of separate Meeting Street from King Street extension. It's really 3 tracks there. And then we have another track that happens actually adjacent to our site, which is an abandoned track. And then sort of on the right side, we've got the Ford's Ready Mix plant. Then you get over to the Coastal Electric Company. And then we have Silver Hill. And then on the left side of the image, you can see sort of that open area left next to I-26. And that's the future Magnolia Landing. So we've been kind of keeping that in our mind too. But kind of recognizing that the trains seem to disconnect us from Meeting Street. And these trains are coming through at 12 trains per day, anywhere from a mile to 3 miles long. So it's a lot of moving and transit and industry in this area. Next slide, please. So looking at these trains and buses and ships, cargo ships, everything that's kind of happening in this area of the neck, we were wanting to use that to kind of help influence some of the architectural. So you'll see some of these forms come out in our theme a little later in the presentation. Next slide, please. Okay, just want to kind of recap here that we did an analysis. It's just fascinating. We've got 9 railways literally within a stone's throw of our site. And so we just kind of kept trying to evaluate, what does this mean with this sort of site that's in motion? We've got I-26 that's got over 100,000 people that pass by it every single day. So this is just kind of this transit type mapping, and we wanted to kind of react to that and kind of get that in our system as we're moving forward with the design. If we can go to page 23 and jump to the street level site context. So just wanted to show it to you at sort of a street level or vehicular level. So the top image is at Atlantic Coast Electrical. As we progress, we actually get to our site, which is the bottom image. Really interesting. There's always been a building here since the late 60s. It seems to be, it's always had sort of an industrial use. We found an image of BW Mitchum Trucking that was on here, and the site was full of these cargo units. So we thought it was sort of fitting that we're coming in and proposing this self-storage cargo vessel that sort of organizes and packages these things nicely on site. And then it went to a Sunbelt, and then obviously more recently it's been the Tradesman Brewery. Next slide, please. Yeah, we can keep going there. Yeah, so just kind of a quick slideshow on these next couple. The bottom image showing Silver Hill to the left, 1 and 2 stories, and the railway to the right. We're looking to the north along King Street Extension. Before we get there, we have Ford Ready Mix on the top image. Next slide, please. And this is our site to the left, and then to the right again, we have the triple railroads. Next slide, please. And then finally, our site terminates here at Oceanic Drive, which goes under the I-26 viaduct. This drive is actually going to be turned into the future Magnolia Landing. and will no longer extend to King Street, but we'll be able to use it for gravel access to get a fire or apparatus to our site. And we've been coordinating that with Mr. Rick Flugie. So just a little bit on site context that kind of influenced us. If we can go to page 32, please. All right. So just wanted to kind of quickly hit on the previous and proposed. I'm sure you guys remember the previous submittal. We wanted to respond to the board comments. We wanted to respond to kind of how we felt about spending time on site and kind of where the site analysis led us to. And so getting the building to front King Street Extension really opens up the back of the building, opens up sort of almost like a garden-like space along Ashy Poos. You can see the residences on the right. And then the lower image is that sort of dry pond kind of park-like space that results in pushing the building forward. Next slide, please. And then this is looking from Silver Creek Lane. And so the building is now centered on the right sort of open green space that happens. Monrovia Cemetery owns that. The building is no longer positioned in front of the residences. We've also provided a big 2,700 square foot public plaza in the out front of the building, which you'll get some better images of. So just wanted to kind of give you a quick reminder of previous versus proposed. So if we can jump to page 39, that'll be the building plans. All right, so quickly wanted to show you a little bit about the building program. We got I-26 to the top right of the page, and it sort of cuts through the site, and it really sort of helped to shape this sort of wedge-like form on that side of the building. We have that plaza on the left, and the building fronts this CWS easement, and it fronts King Street Extension as much as we can. Parking and loading has been moved to the back of the site. We've got a primary office right off of the parking area. And then if you follow the primary office north-south on the page, we have a hallway which connects us to these show units. So the show units actually front on the plaza, and we wanted to take potential renters to that area so they could sort of see what size unit they might need. This is when they set up mattresses and furniture in different size units, and they're basically the show units. Elevator core happens in the middle of the building, and then we've got these vestibules and other glazing that's kind of aligned to bring light and kind of a wayfinding perspective into the core of the building. And next slide, please. So when we go to the third and fourth floor, you're going to see sort of a thickening of the walls, kind of a poche in the walls. And that's really us trying to show this building kind of floating up on this masonry base, kind of this building in motion, this vessel that starts to sort of show itself in that third and fourth floor. And then when we get to the fourth floor, we've actually reduced the square footage and we've stepped the massing down to where we have this one primary gable-like hull form. And this is a really neat space. We've got tons of light. We've got 60 feet of glazing on each end that gets natural light into the spaces. And then there's windows that happen about every 20 or 30 feet. The windows are 10 feet long and about 20 inches high. And then some of the other hallways are really centered on some important hyphen and other breaks in the architecture to allow light into the core of the building. Let's go to slide 44, please. So 44, just wanted to show you this image on the left. So we were sort of envisioning this vessel or this form where we had sort of seamless transition from the roof to the walls. These sort of linear dash-like windows that kind of evoke movement. And then the lower image was just something we were looking at for an inviting color palette. If we can go to page 45, please. So as part of our process, we've sort of jumped in and modeled about 70 acres of the existing context, trying to understand scale and kind of what's out there. Obviously, we've got this big 55-foot double billboard sign that's right north on the page between us and I-26. We've got the 35-foot I-26 embankment ramp that happens beside us. And then we talked about all the railways that happen as we go from left to right on the page. The upper left is what we think is going to be the future Magnolia Landing. We've looked for as much information as we can that's published on it, and it looks like it's going to be some 3- and 4-story mixed-use development on that side. So we just got something to kind of dictate scale there. In the foreground, we get down to some of these more industrial uses of Atlantic Coastal Electric, and then you have the Silver Hill community right in the middle. We can go to the next slide, please. Yep. just sort of a overall bird's eye view of the plaza as it sort of fronts King Street and Ashipoo and that kind of green park-like space in front of the Silver Hill residences. Next slide, please. So this is the view looking kind of towards the Ashley River. Again, you sort of see this double stack railway, and our building is very much influenced by that. You can sort of see the building hovering up on this masonry base. We do have about 90 feet that separates our building from King Street Extension, and all that's just sort of an abandoned railway and kind of greenway space. Next slide, please. So this is our view north, looking from I-26. You can sort of start to see the building and how it's stepping from 4 stories down to 3 stories, and the loading's on the back facing I-26. Next slide, please. This is our view more south, kind of tucking the building under that big billboard and kind of having this sort of graduating form that responds to the shape of the site. Next slide, please. And then this is our view from King Street Extension with the 1 and 2 story residences to the left. That's the open green space in front that Monrovia Cemetery owns, and then kind of giving you a sense of how we will have sort of this landscape layering or threshold that happens across that 80 to 90 feet from King Street as we get to the face of our building. Next slide, please. Yeah, view south on King Street. We feel like we're going to have some screening there. We tried to model the landscape as accurately as we could. Next slide, please. Okay, if we can jump to 56, I think that's the material palette. Oh, I'm sorry. If we back up one slide. Yeah, thank you. So this just finally kind of clears the landscape so you can see the rear of the building where the loading zone is. We have sort of this cantilevered form of the skin of the building that extends out to provide some coverage. And of course, we have these sort of implied basket weave type storage containers that are kind of contained within the overall vessel of the building. Next slide, please. All right, and so this shows our plaza out front and also the material palette. The plaza actually steps, and it's sort of a terraced plaza to where we have more of a public realm that happens along Ashipoo, and then we have some extensions from the building foundation that comes out and actually forms these benches. So we have this masonry with this sort of corbelled horizontal striation that comes out and forms these wood benches. And define some landscape areas. And as you get closer to the building itself, we have 2 steps up. It sort of terraces up to a little bit more of a semi-private area against the building. We see this plaza as really being a great place for the bus stop. We've got Burke High and Academic Magnet and other bus stops that use this area around here. When we were on site, we saw a number of people sort of in that little greenway space between the King Street Extension and our site. And so we really wanted to kind of create a nice programmed outdoor plaza that could be used by the community. Next slide, please. Okay, I think we've got a lot more technical information in here, so I'll stop talking. If there's any questions, happy to answer those.
Great. Thank you, Lassie and Kaylee. Board questions.
I got a quick and easy one. Lassie, did you say the basket facade, did you say that's in front of glass, or that's an opaque wall and it's just glass in that gable?
Yep, it's an opaque wall, and then the idea that sort of the vessel's filled up and the glass at the top is what's sort of left over. So you can imagine maybe coming down I-26 at night and seeing that building sort of lit up, kind of humming like a lamp in there. But it is opaque where you see the corrugated basket weave.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Brad, I think Ben might need to be unmuted. Oh, I see him now. I'm gonna hop in here before he goes though, if that's okay. So thank you. I want to compliment the applicant for taking the board's comments into such deep consideration, and Lassie, to your team for incorporating this new design plan, because I think that you brought an exceptionally thoughtful and contextual design that contributes to the neighborhood, and also made accommodation for addressing the nearby structures that aren't so industrial. So thank you for that. I'm wondering, and this is really more of a curiosity because of the commercial real estate perspective that I bring to the board, but in making these accommodations and scaling back the building and stepping it up in the way that we had kind of discussed in our comments at the last review, do you have any idea what the unit count adjustment is from the original design?
Yes, we've lost about 5,000 square feet. So I don't know exactly how many units that equals, but we've lost about 5,000 square feet total.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Ben, did you want to go? I have a question as well. I can't hear, we can't hear you. I'm not sure if you're saying anything. You guys can hear me okay, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And like Ashley, I don't bring a commercial real estate perspective. I bring probably more of a planning perspective. So Lassie, I have a question for you, and I agree. The conceptual design of this building is it is much improved, and I think the historical piece and kind of your detail as to why you guys designed this is great. When it was lined up, when I saw the train and the side view of the building, it just to me looked very natural with regards to that area. From a planning side, though, from my standpoint, just so I understand the public space that you were talking about, one, you kept referring to the cemetery ownership. So is that adjacent to this little plaza that you guys are creating? Because I'm not sure from a community standpoint. I don't know if you guys went to the community and asked. I don't know if this is going to be used that much, honestly, by the community. Not unless there's the other space that may be more like an open soccer field or something that could be used by the community. So I just was a little thrown off by when you referenced the other space, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, let me see if I can help you clarify. I'm trying to find the right slide to go to. I guess in the bigger context, if we can go to slide number 45. Yeah. So you can see that green space right in front of the building along King Street Extension. From our research, that space, that green area is owned by Monrovia Cemetery. It's not actually owned by the community or the church there. At one point, Ashipu extended across under I-26 and extended to the existing also Monrovia Cemetery that's on the other side of I-26. So we're not sure what's going to happen with that property. We don't know if there's any grave sites there. It seems like it's been really well protected over the years and no one's really doing anything but mowing it. So our plaza area sort of aligns with that open green space. And we were just really trying to get the building to front King Street and not to have the building sort of loom over. Previously, the building was sitting kind of on the back of the site and really in front of maybe 5 or 6 of the homes along Ashipu. So that's as much as we know about the green space at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Can y'all hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. All right.
That's all right.
Getting the technical difficulties with Zoom here. Just a couple of questions, Lossie. First question was, is there a reason that you couldn't have glazing on the ground level, the pedestrian level on the King Street extension side? Looked like you had a couple of spots, but I was just wondering if you could introduce a little bit more. I think you said there are a lot of people that gather there already now, and just be great to have some more glazing on the pedestrian side, King Street. But that's the first question. And the second one, you could probably answer this one quick too. I'm just curious if you had looked at how you would reduce the massing on the northern side to more of a 3-story mass, if you had looked at that on the southern side where it is basically directly across the street from the 1- and 2-story residential units.
Yeah, absolutely. So far as the windows or the glazing goes, we felt like it was a balance. I don't know if we can go to David, the King Street elevations, King Street Station elevations. Um, yeah, that one right there. So it's a little deceiving. The glazing that you see, sort of the hyphens that break up the larger blue massing of the building, they're about 10 feet wide and close to 25 feet tall. So there's substantial openings and glazing in the building. We could possibly consider some more glazing on the ground floor. It is a little screened from King Street, so we tried to kind of emphasize and put everything up towards the plaza at the intersection of Ashipu, where we'd have more people gathering. That was kind of the thought process there. And then the other questions you had, I think if we can go back to maybe, let's see, David, or Bill, I'm trying to think of the best image to go back to for that one. Essentially, we have moved the building about 45 feet away from the residences. And we have also scaled down that side of the building. It has been scaled to 3 stories where previously it was 4 stories. I think that's if we can go to slide number 32 would be helpful, please. Yeah. So the previous and proposed there. So we were trying to sort of graduate and change materials and sort of soften that side. It's going to be a lot of landscape on that side too, between the building and the residences.
Yes, the question was the gable piece. I noticed the part where you went to the 3-story, but the gable piece is still 4-story, correct?
That is correct. The gable portion is 4 stories. Yeah.
Okay. That's all.
I just had one question for Kaylee. And first of all, the new site plan is so much better than what we saw previously. It's so much more respectful of those adjacent residences and everything. So kudos on the site plan. It's great. I do have one question though. You said you've been working with the fire department on the gravel fire lane. Did y'all talk about doing reinforced lawn instead of gravel for that? Does Kaylee need to be unmuted?
Yeah, sorry, I was waiting to get unmuted. Yes, we have talked to them. We have not. He was fine with the gravel. We did not look at another option just because it currently out there is gravel for CWS. So that portion, half of that portion is owned and easement by CWS. So we were just gonna make sure it meets the requirements of fire, but we're not, changing anything too much on the CWS side.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, especially the part that's closer to the building, if that was done as a reinforced lawn instead of gravel, maybe that kind of the tail when the site kind of stretches out, maybe that would be fine in gravel, but just seems like it would be more cohesive to have it as reinforced lawn.
Yeah, we can look into it and check with the fire department for sure.
I have a question about drainage. I see that the only thing that I see is a dry detention area. Are you planning to do any underground storage? It seemed like it's a pretty big building. I'm just wondering if
Yeah, most likely we're going to try to do as much as we can with that dry pond. It's a bigger dry pond than we had before. We haven't gotten into the full drainage of everything, just kind of make sure the site works first with DRB. But we would look at potentially, if needed for the storage requirements, putting it under that pavement area right next to it.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions of the applicant? If not, we can go to city staff recommendations.
David, you're muted.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Some staff observations. First, the previous building design for this project was denied due to architectural direction, as well as the building placement that was too close to the residential area. The new architect has worked with various city staff to come up with a new concept for the building design and building placement, An earlier building concept had less windows, and staff had asked to see more, which the applicant has provided. The applicant provided context photos of common sites in this area as inspiration for the building design, such as the ships carrying containers and the trains. Staff can agree with this as a strong concept and design direction. Building 4 is still 4 stories, but with the way the building is further away from the residential buildings, as well as the building stepping down to 3 stories near the residential buildings, that staff is good with the building placement and the height, scale, and mass. Staff feels the building addresses King Street better and is also an improvement. The building is interesting and unusual, and for a storage building, this is not an easy task. It helps the building is not a rectangle with flat facades as many storage buildings we see are. And the building has wings coming off the main body with unusual angles and appealing end facades that are viewed from the cars approaching on I-26. Other than the large sign on the building, I think people may not realize this is a storage building, and we feel this is a good thing. The conceptual landscape plan looks fine, and the applicants are providing some nice buffers. The placement of the detention pond is good and provides a nice separation of the proposed parking and the asphalt from the adjacent houses. We especially like the fact that the project gives back to the community with an attractive outdoor plaza with seating and raised planters. We have one staff comment. As the project progresses, the staff would like to see a strong planting plan to remain around the detention pond with trees, shrubs, and perennials, as the applicants are starting to show, for a strong buffer between the proposed asphalt and homes across the street. We do recommend conceptual approval for the project.
Great. Does the applicant have any response or need to make any clarifications?
No, David, thank you for those comments.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Great. Then we can go into board discussion.
I'm mostly in agreement with staff. I think we have to applaud the ambition of this strong concept, particularly for a storage building, and kind of a commitment to a strong concept, which is really admirable. Height scale and from a height scale and massing perspective, I think it does a lot of what the board looks for, right? It's giving up floor area like we've discussed. It's orientation, kind of addressing King Street extension better, using the facade to break up the mass. I think it's doing a lot of things from a height scale and mass perspective that we appreciate. That being said, we have a lot more information here, right? We have facade elevations and renderings and everything. And I think from being stylistically agnostic, trying to be, I think some of the architectural expressions could benefit from being kind of tidied up. I think there's a lot of motifs going on here. We have the metal ship on the base, the chamfers, the extruded gables, the major vertical reliefs versus the minor horizontal. I think there's a lot going on architecturally, and I think that could be tidied up. I don't know exactly what that looks like, whether the folded planes get sorted out, or maybe the roofs have the same slope. I don't know what that looks like, but I think it could use a pass at editing these motifs.
I think it's a wonderful response to that site. I applaud the site analysis. You know, you're responding to that area, and the moves that you've made from the previous denial are awesome. You know, pulling it back to King Street, like Lucas said, that's fantastic. Opening it up on the back, that's the main entrance. Keeping it further off of the housing is awesome. I feel like that 4-story is still pretty tall. And I wouldn't make that a part of a board motion, but it would be nice to study that, I think. Just such a 4-story plane right there across from a 1-story house. But I agree with Lucas. The height, scale, and mass is appropriate for that area. And the architectural direction, I feel like you're going down the right path. The windows, I know you're kind of in a bind by not being able to push the units off the envelope. So there's going to be glass glazing in the storage units. But I applaud you showing that there are going to be windows on those elevations. A lot of times we have folks come and there are no windows, and the answer is we can't put windows in there. So I really do. I applaud this effort, and thank you for the deep dive into the site and the context.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
I agree with Ben and Lucas. I think, we denied this on height, mass, and scale and architectural direction before, and I feel like all those comments have been addressed. I think this is a much more kind of context sensitive approach than what we saw before. I agree with Lucas that some of the architectural details could be kind of maybe simplified, unified a little bit, but I think as far as architectural direction, it's a strong concept.
I'd like to comment. I do like it architecturally. I think it's doing great, but I think the best contribution probably to the community would be making sure you beef up that landscape budget just to soften it from all sides. I think the community would benefit from that. I think you've done a very good job with the building. Now it's time to set it in a much gentler context. That's all I'd say.
Anyone else?
Let's make a motion for conceptual approval. Staff comment 1.
I'll
All right, we
second.
have a motion for conceptual approval with staff comment 1. We had a second?
Yep, that was me.
Okay, Ashley, second. Any discussion before we vote?
I do want to just at least touch on, I don't think it needs to make its way into the motion, but a kind of refining of the architectural expressions has been understood. We've discussed it, and I think we're in agreement. But do you guys think that should make it into the motion, or is that?
I think Lossy heard you.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think the same with my question to Kaylee about the gravel versus the reinforced lawn. I'd like for them to explore that, but I don't think it needs to be part of the motion.
Okay. It's all beyond conceptual stuff anyways.
Yep. All right, are we ready to vote? Sam?
Aye. Yes.
Lucas?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Adriana?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So motion passes. Thank y'all very much. Great
Thank you,
effort.
Ron.
Thank you, guys.
All right, we're ready for agenda item number 3, 3550 Maybank Highway.
Thank you, Bill. I just have a few context slides first. The red thumbtack is on Maybank Highway, close to the main road intersection. This is adjacent to the existing park in Johns Island. It's a closer view with the red thumbtack here. And again, closer view. This is the existing park, which it will be a part of. This is looking into the site. We're going to keep the existing drive here. And it's actually more off to this side. But behind the trees, this buffer is going to remain as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to the applicant. I'm not sure who's going first. Is that Zach?
Hey David, this is Zach. How you doing?
Hi, good, thanks.
Um, so yeah, we have David Burt with LS3P on as the architect, and then we also have Craig Clements with Satile as our design assist, and then we have Mary Tweel with Seaman Whiteside as our civil. And I think we also have the mayor on here as well, who might like to speak to this. So I'll just hand it over to whoever.
Sure, thank you.
If the mayor is available, we'd like for him to speak first.
Sure, I think I'm unmuted. Everyone can hear me all right?
Yes, thank you.
We can hear you.
Great. Well, listen, I appreciate the opportunity to just say a few words, let these guys do the presentation, but this is something that we are really excited about and frankly long overdue for not just the residents of Johns Island, but Charleston proper. We spent a lot of time looking at the design on this. Want to make sure that when the city of Charleston does something, we do it in a way that really elevates the architecture of the wherever it goes, and that it also stands out as a civic building. Another just nuance of this that I want to just give you all a little bit of color or background on is that, you know, we are working to, I want to be careful about saying standardized, but in our facilities, making sure that when we build things, we build them to last. We make sure that they are done with a design that will stand the test of time, and most importantly, materials that will, in the long term, reduce capital expenditures for the city. So a lot of thought has been going into the physical form of this and particularly the building envelope. And I just want to say that I'm really excited about the direction that we're heading. Want to give hats off to LS3P and Satile and Seaman and Whiteside for all their work. And then just give a shout out. This is my first DRB board, which I am embarrassed to say, but it's been a good experience kind of listening to all the commentary, and really appreciate what you all do on these boards, in particular this one, because our built environment is better for it. So with that, I will turn it over to the design team and let them roll with it out of respect for everybody's time.
David, will you let Craig Clements? I don't know if he's unmuted yet.
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, there you go. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you, Mayor. We convened a little design workshop with our team. I'm with Satile and Satile, LS3P, and the mayor was in attendance as well as folks from Parks Department. And back in the spring of 2025, to just start to kind of visualize what this architecture how this architecture might develop, this kind of civic, municipal next generation of architecture for the Charleston area. And so that's the first part of this presentation. Just like to share with you some of that process. Next slide. So, these rec centers, they are large scale, long span, high bay structures. And in this case, there are two of them. There's one for which we decided to decouple them to kind of to break the massing of the building down. But in this case, there are two big sort of high bay long span structures. One has the pool, sort of the wet side of the rec center, and the other has the dry, the gymnasium side of the rec center. And so we started looking at architectural precedents that sort of take that kind of architecture and might be appropriate to a more civic kind of quality. And we look back at some sort of industrial precedents, both locally and internationally, of how a previous generation of industrial or kind of larger scale that type of architecture had sort of a civic quality that we thought might be instructive here. Next slide. And also looking at some interior precedents for what these volumes might look like, and things that blended more materials like wood and then more industrial grade, durable materials such as concrete. Next slide. Imagining again what some of those interiors might look like, and you can see sort of the tall vertical windows, particularly down in the lower left-hand side. That was inspirational to us. Next slide. It's more of those precedents for this kind of architectural language. Next slide. And then we started to do a series of sketches as we worked through this on how this building, how these volumes might mass themselves out, what sort of a formal facade presentation in Maybank Highway might look like that would be sort of iconic and immediately recognizable as the rec center and the city rec center on Johns Island. Next slide. Some additional sketches from that sort of design charrette from back in the spring. And again, looking at what that Maybank Highway presentation might look like, and then sort of the side elevations of that. Okay, yeah, next slide. Side elevations of that volume, sort of looking at those tall vertical windows, and similar to some of those precedent photographs. Next slide. And again, sort of starting to formalize that presentation to Maybank Highway with a sort of a vertical facade that has a sort of formality and symmetry to it that would be iconic and may have the city seal in a high gable. Next slide. And then sort of looking at a kind of rough partie diagram of how you could break these two large masses apart into sort of the wet side pool, dry side gym, and then create sort of an arrival court in the center that would allow you to enter the building and then access these two larger volumes with the other support spaces like fitness rooms and offices sort of arranged around that arrival courtyard. Next slide. And then this was kind of an early conceptual perspective that we did that sort of imagined that arrival plaza between the two volumes. So you have this, large volume on each side and this open space that's sort of a welcoming arrival court for the rec center with landscape and sort of a transparent link between those two sort of larger scale volumes that have been envisioned in the early sketches and kind of derived from those precedents. And with that, I will turn it over to the team Seaman Whiteside and also LS3P to talk about site design and further architectural development. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is Mary on?
Hey, I'm here, David.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about the site and where it's located, and then we'll get back to some more detailed architecture. But it's located along Maybank Highway, as previously mentioned. You can see some of the architecture around the site is a little bit more low country style. You've got the library to the south of it. So you can just see kind of the character. It's very rural, lots of trees located around. So you'll see that in the next slide as well, where we dive into the site. So the front of the site has a natural wooded buffer. It opens up to a lawn, and then in the back, it's pretty much wooded. You've got water oaks, red oaks, and gums throughout the site. So it's pretty much a wide open space. You can see slide number 4 has a local chiropractor's office that we will share an entry drive with that I'll dive into a little bit more. But, it's an open space, mostly wooded character. The next slide. So in looking at the overall site, you can see that the front of the site is zone general office and the rear is single family residential. We have that access off of Maybank Highway as a center drive, and then we are going to connect in on both sides off of Hayes Park Boulevard, you can see in pink, and then off of Hay Road to the plan north as well coming in. There's an existing Johns Island Park that we are connecting to. You can see that baseball field at the top of the site. So we are working with a roadway connectivity through the site, as well as trying to locate that building as close as we can to Maybank Highway so that you can get that sort of
civic presence as close as possible to people that are driving through Johns Island. We have a 75-foot required front buffer, and we're going to use the existing trees that are already there and then supplement with understory planting. So trying to keep it as rooted in place as possible. We've got 25-foot front and rear setbacks and 9-foot side setbacks. To the back of the site is a wetland, so we are not having any wetland impacts and really trying to make sure that all the park spaces can fit within the upland areas. Next slide. So in terms of the overall vision for the park, I mentioned, trying to get the building as close to the front as possible. We've got that road that needs to connect through. And then we wanted to make sure that we were providing some external open space elements that also complemented the aquatics and the gym components inside the building. So as you come in off Maybank Highway, that's a 2-lane entry drive. We've got some nice pervious pavers at the front, one to help with stormwater, but also to help elevate the front entry there. That courtyard brings people in. That's going to be primarily paved, but we could have some signature palm trees really sort of enhancing that. And that will include some spill out space for the meeting rooms, or if you're going to basketball, it's kind of a casual community gathering space there. And then as you go towards the rear, it's organized by a central axis where all of the open spaces are in one central area. You've got 2 lawn spaces that could be used as potential farmers market, or if you've got like a swim meet, people can kind of hang out there. Splash pad and playground are centrally located next to each other. And then that central axis takes you across the street to 4 pickleball courts and a basketball court with a shared pavilion in between. We've got associated stormwater, and then tried to incorporate parking as much as we could around the site so that people had lots of different options of places to park. Also really strong connectivity with sidewalks going adjacent to the residential areas and also to the existing park so that we can be well connected to Johns Island and provide other ways to get to the park besides driving. Next slide. Again, a few more park character images. We can continue on. Next slide. Some of our early inspiration was just trying to really make sure that we were, working within sort of the Johns Island aesthetic, lots of large oak trees, lots of farms. So we're really kind of inspired with that linear form that you saw in the park earlier, and how we can create some more central gathering spaces that feel very, that feel very Johns Island. So looking at that rural aesthetic and characteristic of the site as inspiration. Next slide. A few of the site materials that we're looking at, really wanting to enhance it with those vehicular pervious pavers as you drive in, having pavers in the crosswalks to help with pedestrian visibility and safety, and then incorporating a low wall in the front of the building for a little bit of open space outside of the aquatic facility. Next slide. Again, a few site furnishings. You're going to see some classic City of Charleston park benches, picnic tables. Would be nice to have some movable tables and chairs in that entry courtyard as well for people gathering. Next slide. And then we're currently working on the details of the playground, but sort of trying to make that a really signature element for Johns Island. I don't think there's a whole lot of recreational options out there. So I think this will be a really nice element that we can bring to them. Looking at the basketball courts, potentially using paint as a way to elevate it and really make it feel special. Next slide. There's a couple splash pad images, really looking at more interactive water play elements that work with the playground as well. So that'll be a fun one to bring out there. Next slide. We do want to work as much as possible with the native plant palette, so incorporating some really nice signature live oaks, southern magnolias. This is a park, so we do want to have a nice diversity of species. Could incorporate tulip poplars and black gums. Next slide. I had mentioned potentially doing some palm trees at that entry courtyard to It'll be mostly paved, but really trying to make a strong statement while still being able to see the building. You can use palms to kind of really enhance that entry, using some more smaller scale plantings around to soften the overall building with some understory trees. Next slide. And then finally using, again, some more native shrubs that work well, like Florida anise, hydrangeas, beauty berries, using sweetgrass as much as we can. So we're working with the city to provide low maintenance areas, but really trying to make them as native as possible. We've had some success with seeding the pond banks with purple lovegrass. So we'd like to definitely vegetate the pond banks, reduce the mowable areas as much as possible to really enhance the diversity of the site. And I'll turn it over to David to talk more about the architecture.
I know we're running short on time, so the design didn't change that much from where the charrette started. So we've really just dug into the details. So I'm just going to kind of quickly go over these. There's been lots of discussions about the pools, how they're functioning and the depth and all of that. So we worked very closely with the community to make sure that we're achieving all of the pieces and parts programmatically in this building. I've got a couple of classrooms and some meeting spaces off of the main lobby there. To the right, we have the aerobics room as well as a little fitness area and the gym. To the left, you've got the warm pool, therapy pool, and then the larger aquatic swimming pool, as well as the locker rooms and the administrative offices. You can go to the next one. Just a roof plan. You can kind of see that main line that goes all the way down the middle. So Craig talked about the two big moves, and we have a tall space, obviously for the gym, for the basketballs, and then on the other side for the aquatic center. Next. This is the elevation on each end. Next. This is the long side elevation. So the bottom image is the view from what would be the main entrance, and the top side view is the other side. So you can enter the building from both sides. So the parking does go all the way around the building to allow that main entrance to come right in the middle of the building. Next. We lost the renderings. There we are. Okay, this is the main rendering into the entrance. So the image on the left would be the gym, and to the right you can see the shape of the aquatic center, the natatorium space, and then straight ahead is the main entry. And then that's the view from the street as you're coming in. So you would actually see this first, and then if you'll go back, you would come by this to get to the main entrance there. So that's it.
All right, thank you.
Great. We'll go into board questions, and I'll start. I have a question for Mary. So one, the site plan, the landscape plan, everything looks fantastic as far as I'm concerned. It looks really great. Although I do have two concerns, which I'll go ahead and mention, and that was using sycamores and magnolias as street trees. I just don't think that those are probably the best choices. The sycamores, although they're beautiful, tend to be a little bit brittle, and more susceptible to storm damage. So you might want to look for a substitute for those. And the magnolias as street trees, I just think the character might not be right. But my question is, I know you've got to go to BZA-Z for the height issue. Have you been to BZA-SD yet for the tree removals?
She's still muted.
Somebody unmute Mary.
While she's getting unmute, I can tell you we have not. No, we've got to go to BZA-Z next month for the height as well as the parking analysis. But both of those are the only items we've been told that we need to take to BZA-Z.
Okay. So one thing I noticed, Mary, that you actually have two sheet C 3.0 in the set. And there's on your detention pond, you were kind of bumping around a D grade. I think it was a multi-trunk maple. And in one of those plans, it shows the tree being removed, and another plan, it shows the tree being retained. So just ask as you move forward to make sure that those plans are consistent through all the different sheets. So we really know what you're planning on taking out and what you're not.
Yep. We're doing our best to maintain all the grand trees at the perimeter of the site. This site unfortunately requires us to elevate it due to flooding, but we were initially trying to work around that tree, but I don't think that we can save that, but we will be consistent with our plans for sure. I think this was an evolution. This was the beginning, and then that was the TRC set to where we got more deep into the grading of it.
Gotcha. Yeah, if it's a D grade maple, it probably isn't going to do very well.
Yeah, a lot of them are sweet gums, and unfortunately, there's not like a beautiful live oak out here or anything like that. You know, it's I wish there were some beautiful trees to save. They're just, if we're going to have to get rid of any grants for this building, they're actually ones that don't make me that sad as a landscape architect, to be honest. But in terms of your other questions, Bill, those trees are just trees throughout the site, not necessarily street trees for the sycamores. So those probably would not be street tree quality. I agree with you. And then David mentioned we're going to BZA. We just turned in BZA for the zoning for parking, but we are currently trying to incorporate as much parking as we can around the site so that, you know, everything's accessible. But for the tree removals, that now I believe is a City of Charleston zoning approval, which was just changed to where the City of Charleston can not have to go to BZA for their own projects for grand tree removals and can be done on a staff level.
I forgot about that. Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, and Mary, one other thing. I noticed that there were on the drive aisle in the parking lot, there were some dimensions of face to curb of 26 feet, but the parking stalls were only 18. And the city requires 18 and a half. Have y'all worked something out where that's different than normal?
I'm not sure about that half a foot. The 26 feet is for fire access for this building. But we will take a look at that. Make sure that it works out, bump out the curb if we have to.
That's all I have. Anybody else?
I have a question. Are you an SPA on this project?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure you know this is very early. I guess you're trying, you know, that's conceptual. So just I know that on this area, you know, with the displacement, you know, the wetlands, that will be something that you want to maybe do early. So because that can change a lot of the site plan based on, you know, the mitigation that you have to provide if you are in the displacement area, even though that you are not filling the wetlands. So just want to put it out there.
Gotcha. Yeah, we've gotten TRC comments back, but that's definitely something that we're looking at. Particularly those pervious pavers helping a little bit with that. So we're definitely trying to soften the site where we can and absorb as much stormwater and have as much storage as possible. So we're definitely coordinating on that.
Right, and this is I love it. I think that bringing this to Jones Island, you know, with all these developments, are going to be good to have something like this, you know, in the area.
Yeah, game changer for Jones Island for sure.
For sure.
I just had a quick question for Dave. Pertaining to windows on ground. If you could, actually, you might have to show an image, David.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Are you talking to me?
Yeah, he's wanting you to go to the elevations.
I apologize.
Yeah, just so if you went to the conceptual drawings originally done, well, you can look there at the street view windows are gone off of the street view. But if you go back to the conceptual sketch of the street view, or that one too. That's another one of my questions. So right there, David, one more forward. The ground level windows are there, and they're also shown on the, I guess, the main entry courtyard. So there's two questions with the windows. First, it looked like they've been removed, and I was just curious if there was program behind those windows as to why they were removed. I couldn't read on the plan what that program space was. Sure. And then the second part of that, it looks like in the conceptual rendering, they're no longer windows. Are they faux windows, or is it just a frame?
Well, where they functionally make sense, we were putting them in, and we probably can. On these elevations, it's equipment rooms right behind them. It's where the pool equipment is located, so it's not something you really want to be looking in on. But in the entry courtyard, those are into programmable spaces, and those do have windows. So where there's more activity, human activity, we can add them back. So if you go to the rendering, the
courtyard rendering is what
courtyard rendering. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so those are windows. It looked like
those are windows. No,
okay.
That's just a graphic issue.
Gotcha.
We can fix that. Those are windows.
Got it. That's it.
Thanks for asking that, Ben. I was curious about that progression as well. Also on the general context, I heard that we talked about the rural character and adding the trees and the capacity for the farmers market, but I'm curious about like the building architecture itself. Like, what are the elements that speak specifically to Johns Island?
Yes, that would be great. It was and if I can tag on to that question that you guys answered for Ashley, because that was one of my questions, is that I know you had a community drop-in, but I had wanted to know kind of, I guess, what inspiration, because this doesn't scream Sea Islands to me. So I was just kind of curious about the aspiration that you guys received and the community input in regards to the design of it.
Right. And, the thing with this campaign of a kind of a next generation of civic architecture, we are really trying to distinguish between, a municipal project that has a civic character versus the kind of vernacular architecture that is native to, residential structures and other sort of maybe commercial structures. That this is a city project, and it should be made to be a very durable, enduring, kind of permanent sort of a fixture. It's like when you put a church in a neighborhood, it's different than, the houses that surround it, because it's a civic building. So it plays by a little bit of a different set of rules and a much more kind of a long-term, durable, permanent civic presence. And that's kind of what the mayor's vision has been for a lot of these new buildings, is to really have a consistent civic image that is, distinct and does stand out to some degree as being a municipal building and something that's a part of civic pride and shared identity. And so it is not a, vernacular building. That's kind of a given, and it's kind of by nature and by design.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a design professional. One of the things that we're tasked with as a board is ensuring the character of the neighborhoods that are in our purview. And I think, to use an example that you referenced, the churches. I mean, churches on Johns Island look very different from churches, in West Ashley or on the peninsula, for a lot of different historical reasons. And, even in the context slides, we saw a lot of European examples for inspiration. And not that this isn't a beautiful building, but I struggle to see the context, much like what we talked about with the city's last project that came before us. While I respect the consideration of using materials that will last and it won't cost the city more money, and I fully support that, there's another continent that this island shares deep history with, that was not part of the conceptual inspiration. And I wonder if this is the appropriate direction in sticking with one theme that speaks Charleston overall, as opposed to continuing to lean in on the unique characteristics of the different areas of our city.
Clock.
I have a couple of architectural questions, if I may. I noticed on the rendering that on the concept, there's this beautiful pencil work that suggests some punctuation at the top of those gables and at certain architectural points, and yet when it's translated into the working drawings, I miss a little bit of that. That little bit of punch that it gets, like at the peak of the gable, for instance, that makes you see that more sharply and cleanly as a gable. I really appreciate also the civic architecture that has reached out onto Johns Island. I think it's nice to have something so permanent in nature and shows to me as a former Johns Islander, a wonderful commitment by the city on the island, and I really like that. Another point is, again, softening up that elevation where those windows are missing because they're equipment rooms. Perhaps if you could put just some higher up transoms just to get that punctuation back on that elevation, and even guys working on pool equipment appreciate a little bit of natural light. But let's see, what else did I
think we're still in questions, right? We're not.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, then that it was just sort of hitting those comments. So maybe I'll back off on my my comments then. I didn't have any other particular.
Any other questions for the applicants?
Yes, I do have a question on the splash and playground. When you were showing the renderings for that section, what type of fence materials? I just saw landscaping, so I wasn't sure. I know there's a road that separates the two, so I was just curious if you guys had what type of fencing did you include there?
Fencing around the playground and the splash pad, is that the question?
Yes, I just couldn't tell from the.
Yeah, we hadn't quite gotten to that level of detail, but the city has a standard that they like to use that's sort of a wire fence that allows for plantings to grow up on it. So we were going to go with that for now. And then using plant materials as well to sort of buffer it and soften any fencing that's needed.
Okay.
Right.
Any other questions for the applicant before we move on to staff?
Brad, the mayor did ask to be unmuted. I think you wanted maybe to speak to one of the questions.
Yeah, thank you. Just wanted to speak to your question or comment, Ashley, as well as yours, Stephanie, with regards to the aesthetic and being in keeping with the rural aspect of Johns Island. This is something that we talked a lot about, and I think Craig did sum it up pretty well. The reality of, for me, and I think most people that live on Johns Island at this point, is that Maybank Highway on Johns Island is really not rural anymore. It is very much the commercial center, and I think we are trying to demonstrate that and reflect that with civic architecture. So it was a conscious decision. I understand how people could have a different opinion on that, but really for us, we wanted to celebrate that this is a big investment, again, long overdue from the city. And it's a really large building too, that doesn't really, there's not a lot of Sea Island aesthetic that can accommodate an indoor swimming pool or 2 basketball courts connected. So just wanted to be transparent and open with you all about how we came to that. And so if we're going to go for civic, we wanted to go all the way.
I appreciate that. Thanks for the perspective.
Any other board questions for the applicant? If not, we'll go into to the staff report. But before that, Mary, I do want to apologize for my very nitpicky questions. I know we're supposed to be dealing with height, mass, and scale and architectural direction, but y'all provided a lot of information for a conceptual submittal. So it's hard to not drill down when you have that much stuff for us to look at.
Sure. We'll always take comments at any stage, so they're helpful. Thanks.
Oh, Bill, one
right,
more
David?
thing. Sorry, I'm assuming that we have staff support for the other BZA submittals that were just pushed through.
Correct. Yes, that's going to be part of the staff comment.
Okay.
So that's some staff observations first. Staff have met with the project team several times leading up to the board submittal, including TRC sketch plan Wednesday late last year. The proposed civic building consists of 2 distinct connected masses that overlap 2 different zoning classifications. The aquatics building facing Maybank is in the general office zone, which allows the proposed height, while the gymnasium building is in SR1, which is single family residential zone that does not allow for the proposed height without approval by the board for a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals. The city's capital projects consultant team has applied for variance heights for the SR1 portion of the site and the parking. The zoning administrator, who is supportive of the variance request, has directed the applicant that they can move forward with DRB conceptual review prior to the BZA action on the variances. The project is part of a large capital projects effort that is intended to deliver a series of new civic buildings and spaces both on and off the peninsula. And we do recommend a conceptual approval for this project.
Great. Thank you, David. Would the applicant like to respond to any of that?
I think we're good.
All right. Thank you, David. We can move on to board discussion.
I think on the conceptual overall theme, I'm going to defer ultimately to the architects on the board. I think we've seen a lot of examples where commercial developments, I'm thinking of a couple that Lossie did actually, the previous applicant, where we certainly see a lot of the themes of the Sea Island architecture. But I also appreciate it from the other perspective of like the scale of this building just wholly not aligning with the scale of Johns Island. So as it relates to that, I think I'll defer to the rest of the group.
So, I mean,
go ahead, Bill.
This is a big building, but let's keep in mind also that it's turning its smallest frontage to Maybank Highway, and there is a 75-foot buffer along Maybank Highway, which is really going to soften and help with the scale of the building, in my opinion. I think height, mass, and scale and architectural direction is going in the direction that it needs to go.
What I was going to say, actually, maybe is the precedent for this one is the precedent images might, maybe change a little bit, because I personally think the form is okay. I just wouldn't make literal comparisons to some of the precedent images. I think that form of the trolley barn downtown, or even go to a Johns Island horse barn or a tobacco barn in South Carolina, you get a similar form,
right.
Architecturally, so that height, scale, and mass of that form works. But one of the precedents I saw in there was Peter Barron's turbine factory, and that's an awesome example of modern architecture. And maybe that doesn't really relate to this form, but I feel like this is a good example how you could use a traditional form to interpret it in a new way, locally and regionally. I do think, like what Sam was saying, I think the windows on the Maybank side would help. I think the central window is great, but you know, the smaller punched openings would help that street frontage, even if you could just do a high transom. Materials are great. Landscape looks amazing.
Yeah.
Those
I
are
think
my opinions.
one of the points that was being brought up was that it's not vernacular. That is the point. And there's serious merit to that because civic buildings should be other. They should be figural versus fabric. So this is doing a really, and it's not meant to blend into the landscape. It's not meant to get hidden away with being embarrassed of itself. It's supposed to be strong, big, civic. And that's what civic buildings have done throughout history. I really appreciated the European precedents. One of the more encouraging things about this building is not necessarily in our purview, but big interior spaces. How often do we get those nowadays? Rarely ever in civic buildings, and this has got that. So I think it's a wonderful and appropriate civic building. Again, stylistically, we have to kind of take a rather agnostic perspective, but the style it's doing very well. But yeah, I think it's it screams civic. There's no mistaking what it is. And I think that's the point. I would love to see it in brick, but I get that there's limitations.
Great.
And
Are we
also-
ready for a motion?
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
I have one more comment. I apologize for making my comments out of turn earlier. But on the entry courtyard, again, good civic architecture. It is amazing. I really like the building a lot. And where it has the low slope roof over the entrance, I think a more traditional civic architecture marks the entrance maybe a little more strongly. I love the transparency of it, but perhaps taking that low slope roof and adding a bit of a higher slope or some sort of clear story above it to just sort of punctuate that entry, just so it says entry very clearly architecturally. But I think that was my only other comment, and thank you for your patience with me.
Great. Thank you, Sam. Are we ready for a motion?
Go for it. Make a motion for conceptual approval.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Ben and second by Sam. Any discussion?
Bill, not necessarily for the project, but just for a broader approach. So on this one, we're voting tonight, whereas we had a project on our last meeting that we actually did not provide a formal vote for because they had not gone to BZA yet, which is historically how this is run. I actually like being able to move projects forward if we know that we have staff support for whatever they're requesting at BZA. I think that's a really productive approach. If the applicant wants to take that approach, I just think we should have consistency. So, we're doing it tonight. Maybe we need to continue doing it.
One thing
Great.
I just,
Thank you.
and just since we're in discussion, I just want to say thank you in regards to the mayor's comments and everyone else's comments. I understand and agree in regards to civic building having a distinct look. I still feel, just me, just one person, that you can still have a beautiful civic building and still respect the historical aspect of the community that it's in. And that's the Sea Islands. And so, but granted, the need is there. I live on Johns Island, so I know. I deal with Maybank. I understand. I get it. With the growth of Johns Island, there needs to be more opportunities for residents here to be able to pickleball, swim, play basketball. I get all of that. I just hope, I was just hoping that with the civic building, you can still appreciate that the community that you're in, and sometimes you can still add certain elements to respect the historical culture of kind of the Gullah Geechee or just the Sea Islands in general. But that's just the little discussion I have. But overall, I think it's a great project.
Great, thank you. Any other discussion before we vote? If not, Lucas,
Yes.
Ashley,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Right? No.
Adriana,
Yes.
and I vote yes. So motion passes. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
So last thing on the agenda is approval of the minutes from
Actually,
the.
Bill,
Yes.
we did not get the meeting minutes.
Oh, that's
from the
right. We
last
never
meeting.
got minutes.
So they were deferred. So that is it for the meeting.
Okay.
David,
Then,
do we, since it was on the agenda, do we have to officially make a motion to postpone it to our next meeting,
Well,
or is it fine?
we republished the agenda that said deferred. I guess I didn't get it to you all. I apologize.
It's all good.
Yep. Thank you, everyone.
All right,
I'm gonna
great.
say good night.
Then we are
Good night.
adjourned.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.